Hi, I'm Andrea Mack. Welcome to Start With Who, a prequel webinar focused on ending sales overwhelm. Now, I imagine you found your way here because you are in some part or completely responsible for driving new business opportunities. Maybe you're a founder of a company, you have sales in your title, or manage a team of sales professionals. Perhaps you're a freelancer, a consultant, or a coach. I imagine you click that link because you are looking for ways to add prospects to your pipeline, decrease the amount of time it takes to close a sale, maybe increase your close ratio. Maybe you're just looking for a refresh on sales tools and strategies and ways to align your team. No matter what brought you here today, I want to say welcome. We're glad you're here. Sales can feel overwhelming. It can feel exhausting and reactive and inauthentic. And at its worst, it can feel sleazy and self-serving to the buyer and to you, the seller, too. And I might be a little biased when I say this, but I think developing sales skills is the primary foundational building block necessary in creating individual financial stability and business scalability. Think about it. Lack of sales is the number one reason that businesses don't survive. It's the number one anxiety-producing reason that people don't start businesses in the first place. And sales and customers are the reason that businesses even exist in the first place. Consider this. No matter how great your idea is, how amazing your process is, how magnificent your team is, if you don't have customers and if you don't have sales, you don't actually have a business. And today there's tons of content about how to attract and retain an audience, how to convert, how to drive leads and create customer relationships, yet most of it lacks actionable content. So we at Prequel wanted to put together a quick 30-minute webinar full of value and highlighting our top 3 rules and tools for increasing effectiveness in sales. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Andrea Mack. I'm a growth strategist and partner at Prequel, which is a revenue consultancy right outside of Chicago. I spent the better part of the last 20 years helping individuals develop and nurture their sales skills in order to attract and retain new client relationships. I was the chief marketing officer of a law firm in which I was responsible for revenue generation through the lens of sales, marketing, and client experience program development. I also had the wonderful fortune of working with a variety of the firm's clients, so I was exposed to a number of different industries and growth roadblocks, challenges, and opportunities. I now have the fortune to work with female founders and those that need to do the work they sell in order to be more effective at sales. I've seen a lot of things done right, and I've seen a lot of things done wrong. Sometimes they're huge, cataclysmic, process redesign type things, and sometimes they're just small tweaks to a process in order to become more effective. And I will say that consistently through all of those changes and all of the sales obstacles that I've come across, they all start with sales mindset and adopting significant truths. So let's dive right in. The first myth I see is that most people think you need to have a wide variety of sales and products and cast a wide net in order to catch more fish. Now, I think that becomes a bit problematic because when you do that, you dilute your brand. You dilute the opportunity for a referral source to send you new opportunities, and you make it hard for a buyer to know when and where to bring you in and where you add value. You end up selling things that are not profitable, fun for you, or aligned with your future growth objectives. So our first golden rule to sales is that sales has to be about the exchange of value. We want you to evaluate what makes the most sense for you to sell and build your sales action plan around. You are not trying to sell everything to everyone, and you do not need to cast a wide net. A sellable offer should not only be profitable to your business, it should be interesting and enjoyable to you, aligned with your current experience and interest, and aligned with your future goals and outcomes. And no matter how valuable you think what you are offering and selling is, it's the buyer that gets to determine what's valuable. It must help them solve a pain point or achieve a goal. Otherwise, you won't be able to sell it. And at any given time, you need to be able to answer how your offer helps an individual, how it helps the company that they work for or represent, and how the experience of working with you is superior to that of your competitors. A prequel pro tip: buyers actually buy only two things. They buy outcomes and they buy good feelings. Think about that. They buy outcomes and good feelings. Everything you're selling must be aligned with those two truths. I'll walk you through a prequel example. At prequel, our value is focused on increasing the effectiveness of sales for our clients and customers and audience. We believe that herein lies the biggest opportunity to make an impact, not only at the individual level, but at a company level. And that when we help our clients achieve their revenue goals, there are significant positives and benefits and rewards that come along with that. We also know how overwhelming and burdensome sales can be and what it feels like when you're not making enough sales or you're overwhelmed with the amount of options out there. So all of our products and services are focused on those two things: increasing effectiveness of sales and winning more opportunities, and reducing the pain of developing sales action plans and the time spent into cultivating opportunities. So we're going to start here, and I want to give you an action item. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is define your value proposition. It should identify how your offer helps to solve a problem or achieve an objective or makes your buyer feel better about working with you. Your value proposition will help you draft and deliver your messaging that becomes about the buyer and instead about you. So take a moment and write down what you think your most valuable offer is and what you want to build your sales action plan around. Now, let's dive into myth number 2. Most people think you need to have hundreds, if not thousands, of prospects in your pipeline to be effective at sales. Most people think you can't mix friendship with business, and that if your current customers needed something, they would pick up the phone and call you. Most people think you need to focus on getting new clients and customer relationships rather than cultivating what you already have. And when you do this, I venture to say that you slow down your sales process. You miss the opportunities that already exist with the relationships and people that you've invested in, and you waste time and money. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? Who wants to waste time and money? No one. So our sales golden rule number 2 is that your sales must be customer-centric. When you think about proactive, outbound sales, it's about relationships. Sales is always and will always be about problem solving and relationships. And when most people focus on getting new business without focusing on cultivating the relationships they already have, you can use a network audit to identify sales potential in those current relationships that you already have. A network audit will help you segment your contacts according to the sales process and planning. But what is a network audit? A network audit essentially asks you to start with who. It's the process of identifying the people that make up your personal and professional network and assessing each person's status in the marketing to sales funnel. A network audit is a prequel tool that we've developed to help you answer the following questions. 1, are you positioned to grow, and do you know where and how to get new clients? 2, are your current and marketing, sales, investments, and initiatives achieving their desired results? And 3rd, should you be prioritizing marketing, sales, or both? So I begin every consulting or coaching relationship I have with a question. Do you know enough people in a position to hire you, or do you need to go meet those people? And we use the network audit to get a collection of your current status. And that usually will give us an indicator of whether or not you need to go meet more people, which is the marketing track, or whether you have enough in your network to cultivate and use sales tools to drive new opportunities. This is why the network audit is so critical. And I'm going to offer you our second prequel pro tip, which is that there will never, ever, ever, ever be a shortage of marketing tactics for you to try or employ. You want to always start with the who first and then correlate your marketing tactics to that who. This way, when you pre-qualify a lead, there will never be any waste. I would rather you write a blog post or an article for an audience of 1 that you've already pre-qualified as a good fit and who needs your valuable offering, rather than spending time, energy, and money casting it widely. So, download our network audit. You can use the links below or go to our website, but download the network audit and give yourself 15 to 30 minutes to complete it. You should revisit this network audit annually or at least regularly because it's the basis for your ongoing sales activity. It tells you exactly what you should do next and what information you need to gather and where to start. And again, if you approach by starting with the who, that you're pre-qualifying your leads and you're building your prospects and relationship about where you already know that there's opportunity. This will help you determine who's worth a coffee, who's worth a dinner, and who's worth a trip to Bermuda, if you're into that sort of thing as a marketing strategy. Now, the third most common sales misstep that I observe is that most people are focused on advancing their own objectives. They're busy, they're overwhelmed, they're spread thin, and they take all of those micro interactions with their buyers for granted. We end up showing up to a meeting, talking about ourselves, telling everything we have to offer and why they should buy from us. Then sales becomes self-serving. It feels painful not only to the seller, but it feels painful to the buyer on the receiving end of that. And then we try to sell to buyers what we think is valuable rather than focusing on what the buyer actually needs. This delays the sales process and it ends up wasting everyone's time and energy. So sales golden rule number 3 is that sales must be informed and intentional at every step of the process. Now, if you believe sales golden rule number 1, which is that sales is about the exchange of valuable, and you believe rule number 2 that sales must be customer centric, each move you make during the sales process must be informed and must be deliberate in how you advance that relationship and process, which means you need to gather all of the right information before you propose any of your solutions as the most valuable solution. This approach not only gives you a very clear action process and how to advance those relationships and opportunities, but it just feels better. It feels better for you and it feels better for the buyer. Qualifying a prospect is a key component of any sales methodology. Qualifying tells you that you're in a good position to solve your buyer's problem, and it increases your chances of closing that business. It's getting your prospect to customer, and it's essential in proactive sales. We even use lead qualification in our reactive sales when we have an inbound opportunity. I'm going to walk you through the prequel methodology to qualifying a lead. And if we believe that sales is about relationships, problem solving, and advancing a goal, then it's really critical that you gather the right amount of information that will help you advance the relationship. We do this with 6 different categories. First, needs and wants. What are the problems or opportunities that exist for the buyer? What is a priority for them right now, either at the individual level or at the enterprise level? Next, what are your offerings? You have to have a credible solution that matches the current needs, priorities, or problems. What's the budget? Has the buyer allocated a certain level of investment, and is this worthy of an investment for them? Do you know how much they are willing to invest? Do you know whether they think this is a small problem or a large problem? Knowing this information is incredibly important to qualifying at the front end. Timing. How quickly are they looking to address this priority? And what's the capacity on both the buyer side and the seller side to implement a solution? Without the alignment of timing, then you're not likely to close a sales opportunity. Who are the decision makers? Oftentimes, I see that we're cultivating relationships with those that are not ultimately the final decision maker. And having access to the person that's ultimately going to make the decision or write the check and those influences around the decision makers is incredibly critical. Knowing this information up front will allow you to advance your sales strategy in the most appropriate manner. And lastly, you might get tired of hearing me say it, you need to know what your buyer thinks is valuable. What is a successful outcome for your buyer? What would happen if they don't implement a solution? And what do they stand to gain if your solution works? When you know all of this information and you gather all of this information about a buyer, only then are you in a position to ask for an opportunity. Research tells us that it takes anywhere between 7 and 14 touch points to move a prospect to customer. You spend the most time in this relationship building bucket, and it's an incredibly critical time because this is not only where our buyers get to know us, it's where we build trust and credibility. And during that time, instead of using those touch points to check in or send an article or take someone to repeated coffee, you can use those touch points to gather the information you need to qualify the lead. I want to give you an example. I want to show you 2 different types of examples of how to ask for business, and I want you to use your own judgment on which one you think feels better. So option number 1, I approach a friend I have and I say, "Hey Jenny, I'd love for you to hire me for sales coaching. I'm a really good sales coach. I've done this for a long time. I work with hundreds of people to drive revenue. You should really hire me. Would you be interested in working together?" Now, option number 2, because I've spent the time qualifying and getting all of the information about Jenny's priorities, what would make a viable solution, what they've tried in the past, what budget they've allocated, I can approach Jenny and I can say, Jenny, we've spent a lot of time together over the last few months talking about your priorities. And in that time, you've shared a number of things with me about how this decision is being made, how critical it is to you and your organization. And if you'll give me a couple of moments, if you'll give me 20 minutes, I'd love to walk you through a couple of solutions and ideas for solutions that I have. Would you take a 20-minute phone call? Now think about the difference between approach A and approach B. They both are getting to the same point, but approach B feels so much better. And I have all of the information in advance to know that I'm pitching Jenny at the right time. In the absence of having those 6 qualifiers, you're not in a position to ask for somebody's time. If you invest into the relationship and gathering the right information, then you have earned the right to ask for an opportunity to pitch. And if you're cultivating a relationship, who would say no to a 20-minute phone call in which you can bring me valuable advice, direction, or ideas? So I want you to really think of this as your golden rule and rely heavily on those 6 qualifiers. So prequel pro tip, you have to earn the right to offer your service and solution by investing in the relationship and gathering all of the relevant data that you need in order to know that your solution is the most viable. I'm going to pause here for a moment, and I want you to download the lead qualifier worksheet linked below. Using the context that you included on your network audit, you're now going to gauge where you're at and try to lead qualify these contacts. How much information do you know about these prospective buyers or connectors? And be realistic. I don't want you to guess or put stuff in for the sake of putting it in. I want you to be realistic about what you know and what you still need to affirm or gather. And this should drive your next steps. So if you have only one box completed for all of your prospects, then you know that you have to go out and gather information at your next interactions. I personally use the lead qualifier as a visual pipeline for my sales opportunities and how close I am to actually asking for a piece of business. So if I have 20 contacts on my network audit and a majority of them are only 3 boxes, I know that about roughly how much time I have until I get in a position to enter the sales conversation. If I have multiple contacts that are 5 boxes out of 6, then I know that I am more likely to close and how close I am to generating revenue or entering the sales conversations. So use the network audit and the lead qualifier to really create and evaluate your sales pipeline and how close you are to closing new business. So let's recap. Sales secret number 1, make sure you know what you are selling is valuable. The buyer gets to determine the value, and buyers only buy 2 things. They buy outcomes and they buy good feelings. Number 2, there will never, ever, ever, ever be a shortage of marketing tactics. So complete your network audit and then craft marketing tactics around your relationships that already exist. Start with the who. And lastly, you must earn the right to propose your solution, your product, or your service by investing in the relationship and gathering all of the relevant buyer information before you propose your solution. Use the lead qualification process in order to determine how close you are to closing an opportunity or pitching a piece of business. Now, that was a lot that we covered in a very short time. And I want you now to imagine how your process or approach might be different at the broad level and at the micro level. How might these 3 tools and 3 rules really shift and change how you approach and advance opportunities? Would this make a difference for you in how you generate leads and how you advance those relationships? Does it feel overwhelming? Does it feel like there's too many opportunities and you need some help? So I ask you, why did you come here today? What's most important when you think about your sales activity and scaling and generate revenue? What is it that prompted you to spend 30 or so minutes with us investing in your sales skills? I think sales skills are the number 1 skills to invest in, and they're often underestimated and considered scary and overwhelming and stressful or uninteresting. Yet, as we discussed earlier, they are the building block for your business. And so I venture to guess that if you're going to, I'm going to go out on a limb and tell you that if you're going to invest in your professional development and in scaling your business, investing in sales skills, sales training, sales tools is the number 1 place to invest, because there you will see a return on that investment. Now, I know you might be thinking, what if I don't even have a business yet? What if I don't have a list or a website? What if I don't even know what I'm selling? I want to assure you that our tools are created and available to meet you at wherever you're at in the sales cycle. And I say, what better way to start than building the right foundation, concrete in very deliberate and intentional process and thought. Now, what if you don't have money to spend on resources right now? What if the whole reason you click this is because you don't have any sales or customer relationships, and so you need money? Then I say start with our free resources. You can always work your way up, but a minimal investment of a few $100s or a few $1,000s will yield results. So if you're going to spend and invest in sales resources and tools, because you will be able to continue reinvesting in yourself and your business. Now, what makes Prequel and Sales is Freedom different from any other tool out there? As I said earlier, there's millions and hundreds of tools right now promising to teach you how to cultivate an audience and convert them and blah, blah, blah. What makes Prequel and Sales is Freedom different is that it's very actionable. So none of our content or our methodologies are pie in the sky theoretical type teaching. Everything we teach has an associated tactic or tool that comes with it. So when we think about sales, Prequel teaches sales holistically from the start to the finish, and it meets you where you're at in your own sales continuum and in your own sales strength. So there's an actionable tool that shows you how to do something, tells you how to do it, gives you examples, and really guides you through the entire process to be effective from point A to point B. I might be biased, but that's really where I think we stand out in a crowded marketplace, and in which our clients and customers have told us that we make the biggest impact. We take very simple concepts and we give you very intentional instruction on how to implement that concept. So, as we wrap up, I want to reinforce that sales is a process. It's an ongoing journey, much like anything else that you need to work on or improve, and it's muscle building. It's critical to adopt a framework, tailor it to your revenue objectives, and maintain consistency and accountability throughout your entire sales process. It will work. You will attract new customers and new relationships, and you will generate revenue. And what matters more than generating revenue is the autonomy and agency that's developed when you can build a book of business. When you have a customer base, whether you're on a sales team or you own your own company, generating sales means generating autonomy, agency, and access. And who doesn't like autonomy, agency, and access relative to their own career? Sales planning and sales skills are the first critical step. And now that you've invested this last 30 minutes with us and you've invested in building additional sales skills, you know better, so I want you to do better. Below, we've listed a bunch of links that are helpful for you. There should be links to every tool that we mentioned, as well as other ways to rely on the Prequel community. Moving forward, there are several options for you to continue and learn and grow with Prequel. You'll find all of the links below relative to tools that we mentioned during this webinar. There's a link to our free open group coaching. I did say free. There's a link to our free resource vault and all of our different offerings. Additionally, there are a few places in this mini course that we touched on subjects like strategy, client experience, etc. So click the links below to see the tools that we have included and anything we think might be relevant to you. I also encourage you to follow us on all of our channels as linked below and keep in touch. Thank you for watching and spending your time with us. I'm rooting for your sales success. Bye.